Yo, what's going on, guys? It is FoxyDude98 here. Welcome back to a brand new video for you guys today here on the channel. Today we're here for round number 2 of my F1 2019 career mode season 2 here with McLaren at the Bahrain Grand Prix. And as you can see, we have got a massive amount of upgrades that are going on our car for this race. I think I just scrolled through the messages, but as you can see, first of all, one chassis upgrade on. We failed on an aero department. We got the other chassis upgrade on. We got the other engine piece on. We got the other engine piece on. We got the other engine piece on. So we've got 3 engine upgrades, 1 chassis upgrade, and 1 engine upgrade that has come through. And then we had obviously the failure on the aero side of things. So honestly, it's not that bad. Like, out of all the pieces that we got, I think 5 were successful and 1 was unsuccessful. So on that front, really, really good job. And as you can see, we've now catapulted above Toro Rosso and above Sport Pacer as well in the process. So we have made a great step forward. And there it is. Look, we have all the 3 engine upgrades come into place, which was for the ERS, fuel efficiency, and for just straight up engine power. And then we obviously had those 2 bits of the aero department come in, as well as the chassis plates. Into the Bahrain qualifying. Now, obviously, Bahrain normally a track that's quite OP for the AIs. As we come across the line, our first lap, P4, 1.9 seconds off the pace. It was a really bad lap anyway. I just wasn't quite hooked up on my first run. On my second run, you can see I'm already 0.8 of a second up at this point. As I go in towards the last corner now, much better and tighter and just better line in general. And you can see the time gaining now as we go onto the start-finish line here. And it's going to be a 1 second improvement. We go 1.5 seconds shy of pole position, and we go up into P11. So we're through to Q2. Unfortunately, we did have to do it on 2 runs, but that's completely fine. Like, I'm not that bad. I'm not that fussed about having to do 2 runs. But as you can see, it is obviously myself just ahead of Lando Norris there, and only Charles Leclerc managed to get through on the medium tyres, where Lucas Weber somehow 0.9 of a second off when George Russell gets knocked out in Q1, which makes complete sense. So good game, love it, Codemasters. Anyway, on into Q2 now. My first run, which you're watching here now, is a banker lap. So I'm using a scrub set from Q1, so I'm using used tyres. And as we cross the start-finish line, as you can see, look, it's 2.2 seconds off the pace. It's just a bit of a banker, just to get something in there. And then as you can see now, on my next lap, this is where it counts. We're currently last at the moment, and we're trying to see if we can get ourselves into Q3 potentially. But as you can see, obviously anything can happen as we go on to the last corner. Unfortunately, I just didn't quite get the last corner right. I went too early on the turn-in, and then just got clobbled onto the curb, got stuck on the outer curb then, lost the back end of the car, and I lost a lot of time. And unfortunately, it is P12, and I am knocked out in Q2 there, and a bit of a shame there. Also, as you can see from the screen, I actually have changed my helmet for this race. But as you can see, I was actually just under a 1/10 of a second shy of Q3. If I got that lap perfect, and if I got that final sector and that final corner right, I would have been into Q3, absolutely no problem. But it is what it is. We're knocked out in Q2, and like I said, got a brand new helmet now. Yes, I did pay for one of the premium helmets, but at the end of the day, the premium helmets and car skins are £1, so it's absolutely nothing. So yeah, with that all being done, there's the resource points gathering up. We've got 1,000 resource points now, really stacking up on those points, and let's get into the race for the Bahrain Grand Prix.
The curtain rises once more then on the desert stage of Sakir as the players take their places for the opening act. Will they enthrall us like they did in 2014 with that titanic battle between Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton? Well, we'll find out shortly as we get underway here in Bahrain. There's no shortage of passing opportunities around the 3.36 miles of the Bahrain International Circuit, with the best at turn 1, of course, and then another soon into turn 4. 15 corners here, 6 to the left and 9 to the right, and we could see 1 or 2 flat spots into the tight left-hander of turn 10. A warm welcome to Anthony Davidson, who's beside me in the commentary box today. Why don't we discuss Red Bull? We have a number of changes to the aerodynamic regulations this year, and the signs haven't looked good for them so far in terms of getting to grips with those changes.
It doesn't look promising for them so far. And if the new regs have hit them as hard as we think, well, I suspect they may need a few late nights at the factory to get back on track.
With the race minutes away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Sebastian Vettel will start on pole. Fantastic qualifying from the multiple world champion. And Lewis Hamilton completes the front row. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Leclerc, Bottas, Max Verstappen, and Gasly, Butler, Sainz, Perez, and Kevin Magnussen. Weber, Thomas, Roman Grosjean and Norris, Raikkonen, Russell, Alexander Albon, and Lance Stroll. Giovinazzi and Nico Hülkenberg completes the grid. And with lights out just moments away, it's...
Alright, so we're onto the grid now for the Bahrain Grand Prix, and we've got two options for strategy. We've got either the softs to the hards, or the mediums to the hards. Now, as you can see, the mediums to the hard is actually overall, in terms of race trim, 1/10 of a second slower. However, I'm going to stick with the medium to hard strategy, just because I want to basically give myself some viability of strategy in the race. But 5 red lights, and it's lights out. We go here to start the Bahrain Grand Prix. It's a good start there from Sebastian Vettel. Decent getaway for us, though, off the line there, as Lando Norris now on our inside as we head towards turn 1. You can see Vettel has flown up into the lead of the Bahrain Grand Prix. He started 3rd after all of that, and somehow he's come out of nowhere and it's just flown on through. Norris as well has had a great start. He's actually got the jump on me in the early phases here as we now go towards the outside line here as Charles Leclerc now under pressure. So I believe Vettel, despite just shooting up into the lead, has lost out there as we swoop around the outside here on Charles Leclerc and on the Lando Norris, my teammate. And we can close the door there and cement that overtake as the two, the Renault and the Racing Point, go to war. And we're going to go down the inside of both that Renault and Racing Point. I believe it is no, it's not Hülkenberg. It doesn't race in the Renault anymore. It's confusing. It's Carlos Sainz and also Devon Bolsack there. So very close stuff as we get very close to the back of Sergio Perez. Had to take evasive action slightly there on the exit of that corner. As you can see now, it is a Ferrari 1. Is it Ferrari 1-2? No, it's not. I believe Hamilton's in the lead. Yeah, it's Hamilton and then the two Ferraris. So Lewis getting away quite quickly. Mercedes started to become rejuvenated after being battered last season by Ferrari. And now he can keep pressing onwards. As you can see, the Renault car still very much onto the back of me here. And now I just need to play it cool, be patient, and eventually my time will come to try and pass these cars. But obviously, in this opening phase, this is where it's going to be difficult for me. I am on the slower tyres. The rest of the drivers around me are all on the faster, soft tyres. You can see I go wide on the exit of the last corner. I didn't quite hit my apex there. And onto the straight now. This is going to give Carlos a great opportunity to have a run at me now. He does go for it here, does Carlos. And as he blasts our way now in towards the first corner, I'm going to give him a super tight line in towards turn 1. And it's not going to allow him to get the run. And unfortunately, as you can see there, he has to hit the curb. And that just allows me to freedom to just escape now and hold off the initial threat there. On to lap 2 of the Grand Prix now to start lap 3. We're still doing a decent job up front, actually, in P8 at the moment. Hamilton is currently leading the way with a 31, was that? 131.6. Meanwhile, us on medium tyres, a 132.7, which is actually promising as Sainz now is going to come back at us once again here in towards turn 1. We brake a little bit earlier, but it just allows us to get that little bit of extra rotation in the car. And obviously then it means that we can just roll the car through the corner and just cover off the inside line. Lap 6 of the Grand Prix now. Perez and Gasly are going to war here, and that's allowing me to close right up to the back of this now as we get so close to Pierre Gasly there. Perez backs off as he goes in towards the pits now. It's a drag race here. Gasly's got DRS, I've got DRS, but I believe my McLaren with a triple engine upgrade for this race. Bearing in mind, obviously, one was for ERS and one was for fuel, granted, but we still had an engine power upgrade for this race anyway. We managed to get past Pierre Gasly, and that's us up into, I believe it's 6th place now in this Grand Prix. Good stuff straight away as Pierre now has a little look there. I sort of cover it off, and from that note I can actually just sit back and bide my time as we keep pressing onwards now onto the end of lap 7 to start lap 8. Pierre Gasly though is still on the back of me. Of course, Bahrain, really tough track to get out of DRS because there's 3 zones this time around on this game, and it's so difficult to pull out onto the slipstream because the DRS is in literally all different sections of the track, so you don't have any specific point where you can really breeze away here. Gasly, meanwhile, tried to go for the overtake. He didn't quite make it work. Around the outside, it just wasn't going to play in his favour, and we can open up the DRS, and we get the bite of it this time around. So I save a little bit of DRS, but Gasly's still coming at me, so I can't obviously use absolutely nothing. We move on to lap 13 of the Grand Prix. Now, unfortunately, there was a slight phase in this Grand Prix between lap 8 and lap 13 where I did actually lose footage. Unfortunately, I had a problem where I lost that specific couple of laps of footage, but nothing else happened. The Ferrari that retired, I believe, was Vettel. There was a Ferrari that retired in this race. We then came into the pits, and now we're onto the hard tyres. So we are going to do the medium to hard strategy. We're going to get past Alexander Albon now with quite easy, actually, to be honest, for us. No real troubles there, passing the Sorosso car, and that's us up into P5 of the Grand Prix. I completely forgot about the issue with the footage. It's my bad, but it's okay. Onto that 15th of the Grand Prix now. Lewis Hamilton here on soft tyres is now right in front of us. He needs to stop again. I do actually know that he has got an issue with his car. So I was closing him quite quickly. And Jeff never told me about Hamilton having an issue. So I thought I was absolutely flying in this race. No, I wasn't. I was actually quite far behind. It's Verstappen now at this stage of the race. So as you can see now, we're on to lap 20 and we've got a bit of a dilemma. Bottas, 13.2 seconds up the road. Charles Leclerc is 2/10 behind me. That's the Red Bull there going through those high-speed corners, and we're going to the ends now. So for me, do I defend against Charles Leclerc, or do I let Charles go through, don't waste time defending, and just claim a P3 and try and get a podium? And I actually bumped the rear wing there of Charles Leclerc. And on the straight now, we've got DRS, and my mind was made up. You can see it from there. Charles sets the fast lap of the race so far. It would just be way too hard to defend against him, and I don't want to go through that pressure. I just want to get the car to the end of the Grand Prix. Charles at this stage is much, much faster. Fresh medium tyres. Verstappen, look, is 11.2 back with 9 laps to go. So it means it's just easier for me to manage that, and it's exactly what I did. As Bottas wins the Bahrain Grand Prix, Charles Leclerc sets the fastest lap on the last lap of the race there. So great stuff for him. Meanwhile, for us though, it was actually overall a quiet race. I mean, the bit of the footage that I actually lost was literally just me coming into the pits there. But we're going to come to the start-finish line nonetheless, though. It's going to be 3rd place for us here at the Bahrain Grand Prix. And that's our first podium of this season. And I'm really, really happy that we can get off to a good start, obviously, in this career mode with an excellent P5 in Australia. And we claim a podium of 3rd place here today. And really, really impressive stuff. Bottas, though, wins for Mercedes. And that's 2 in a row now for Mercedes. They're on a little bit of a streak going on at the start of this year. Ferrari, obviously with Vettel DNFing, and one of the regulation changes was durability. Kind of just plays into the question of, did Ferrari not upgrade their car for or save their durability pieces? But Lando Norris as well, look at that. P5 for Lando Norris. So I started 12th, Norris 14th, I finished 3rd, Norris 5th. We both did the 1 stop in the race. So overall, I think that's the best overall team result that we as McLaren have had so far in this career mode. In the Drivers' Championship now, we are 13 points off the top. We have got 25 points so far this season. Lando Norris picking up 10 points so far this year. As you can see, Verstappen and Vettel just behind me, actually. In the Constructors' Championship, it is Mercedes ahead of Ferrari by 17 points, and then we're on 35 points, jumping above Red Bull.
Good day today. Let's have your take on it. Lucas flew through the pack in that race. What's his secret?
Secret is, he is overtaking cars by driving backwards.
You gained a lot of positions during the race, didn't you?
Yeah, I actually had really good pace, and the car literally did stick to the track.
Everything went your way today. It looked like you had a really good strategy for the race.
Most teams did the 2-stop, but both of my options were 1-stop, so yeah, the 1-stop worked.
It's safe to say you're smashing everyone's expectations, isn't it?
That's not the only thing I'm smashing. Winky face.
Appreciate your...
That was really cheesy, I'm sorry. Well, that's just what I do with these interviews. So that is going to be it then for the Bahrain Grand Prix. Like I said, quite a quiet race, but you have quiet races, you have manic races. So as you can see though, we're going to gather up our resource points and we're going to go back to the drawing board and get some upgrades on the car, because of course we're now at the time where we're going to be needing them, of course. We did get the team goals as well, so we got 900 resource points, and overall we now have 2,000 resource points that we can put to use with our car. Now, reputation for McLaren just goes right up to the top, which is absolutely awesome. So let's go and have a look at the R&D chart now. And let's go and see what we potentially want to start looking at for upgrades then. As you can see, we've got plenty going to come on the car soon, but now we've got to make the decision of what we want on the car. And I straight away instantly picked one upgrade to go for a drag reduction for the aerodynamics. I've not done any drag reduction upgrades yet, so I decided now would be a good time to go and do that. I was having a look then elsewhere, and I could get a major engine upgrade, but I don't believe I did that. I think I went with the rear downforce for the side pod turning vanes. I'm just the weakest at the moment in the aerodynamic department, so I'm going to go and do that. So anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching today's episode. If you have enjoyed it, drop it a like and subscribe if you're new around here as well, and I'll see you guys for the next one. Take care all. Peace.